Welcome back to Damn Parenting. I'm Eva, and I'm delighted you're joining us on this episode with Mimi. And as always, we're going deep. Today, we're talking about how to make a sustainable plan and how family dynamics, whether you're co-parenting, parenting solo, or navigating post-divorce life, can shape your child's multilingual journey. Now, if you've been with us from the beginning, you'll notice that sometimes we circle back to earlier themes, and that's very intentional. We believe in layering the learning. Each conversation builds upon the last, helping things land more deeply, more clearly, and making the whole picture feel a little more grounded each time. So whether you're listening en route to work or whether you're walking the dog, we hope this episode gives you a space and time to reflect, tune in, and reconnect with your why. Because remember, this isn't about adding more of your to-do list. It's about tuning in, getting clear, and finding peace in your journey. Hi, Mimi.
Hi. Thank you for having me again. It's lovely to be here.
Well, based on our previous episode, we spoke about the why we are raising our child multilingual. It was very thought-provoking for many of us, as many of us just accept and expect that this is just what you do. But that episode made many of us realize that the why is a key element to help us support our child on their journey. And the why was for us. So, okay, this episode is going to get personal pretty fast because when it comes to language and identity, we all carry our own stories and hopes and even baggage. And since we're not raising our children in a vacuum, it often includes others too. So, Mimi, here's the real question. Whether we're parenting with a partner, co-parenting after separation or divorce, how much do you need to understand their why?
Well, in fact, you need to understand it a lot more than you think, because language decisions are not just logistics. And as we talked about this before, your why is rooted, it's deeply emotional. It's rooted in your deepest emotions. So when you know your partner's or your co-parents' why, you're not just aligning on strategy, because this is what you see on the surface, basically, but you're acknowledging what's behind it. Because for you to agree on a strategy, you need to understand what is behind their why, what drives them to want to achieve certain goals, what drives them to have certain hopes, what kind of experiences they've made. And this is the story behind their why. So once you understand this, you'll be able to better understand why they want to achieve, what they want to achieve. And if there is misalignment, you can work together to reach a certain decision of what strategy to use or what goal to aim for. It could be that a language that they're trying to pass on is connected to certain emotions about their home country, about relatives. It could be tied to shame or exclusion. I have a very close friend who never learned the language of her family because they were so focused on passing on English. And now that she has a child, she wants to pass this language to her daughter. And she was panicking because she said, how am I supposed to pass something when I don't have it myself? And I said, well, why don't you start doing it together? And it will help create a better bond, and it will help her daughter understand what's behind it. And her husband, it was completely on board. Of course, this is not the case by default. But by talking about those things, you can reach a common ground. And without knowing what you're aiming for, it's super easy to misunderstand or to draw very fast conclusions or assume, because we're all very fast sometimes when we assume things. So once you understand what's behind it, you can meet each other halfway, or you can meet whatever you decide to meet. And then from this point on, you can build a language plan that takes the full picture into consideration and not just those surface features of, oh, I speak this language and I speak this language. Let's just do this strategy and go with it.
You spoke there about some alignment there. We often assume that we're actually on the same page with the partner until, we're not. So what's at stake when there isn't a buy-in from other caregivers?
A lot. This is the short answer, because this lack of alignment shows up very quickly, because when you have certain goals, you need to plan for how to achieve them. And very often there are certain, it sounds very negative, but certain sacrifices that you need to make to achieve certain goals. And if the partners are not aligned, this shows up very quickly in stress. A lot of stressful situations emerge from this. So maybe one parent will stop speaking the language. Maybe one parent will feel that they're being misunderstood. It might come out in other ways, the stress about the language dynamic. Of course, one of the partners will feel unsupported, or both of them will feel unsupported and misunderstood. Or, worst case scenario, the child starts resisting because they sense the tension, because they don't know what's going on, because they sense tension, they don't know how to allocate all those emotions. So it comes out in ways that you cannot predict. The child just starts resisting speaking one language or the other. And when you're not explicit about what roles everybody has, about what kind of purpose you have, each of you separately, and what is your shared purpose, it's very easy for very well thought out plans to just fall apart.
And when we talk about separated or single parents, how can we still create the sense of shared purpose or consistency?
I know it's not always easy, but I would say it starts with communication. You need to talk about it. And you need to talk about it from, if you are not on good terms, which happens often, talk about it purely from the perspective of both of you wanting the best for your child. And what can you do based on science without leaving your personal feelings behind? Because in situations like this, things can get very complicated and communications is not always easy. But even if your relationship is over, your child's identity is developing, and this child needs both parents, and they need to continue having some sort of normalcy of what they had before. And you cannot expect that one language, all of a sudden, one language will be less important because you've separated. No, both languages are equally important, and continue to develop them will continue to support the sense of normalcy for your child. And if you can't agree on everything, or if you can only agree on very few things, reframe it. Decide what not to undermine. Just make sure you let your child know that both languages matter. And if direct coordination is not possible, find supporters. Is it extended family? Is it community members? Is it some sort of mediators that can help? Is it other adults? But keep in mind that your child needs the consistency for their emotional well-being, for their identity development, for their academic development, for their self-confidence, just for their normalcy of their everyday life.
So, speaking there about inconsistency as well, what actually happens to the language plan that we might have developed as a nuclear family, I think it's called? What happens now once we go into co-parenting after separation or divorce?
Well, one thing is sure, it gets more complicated. And the less communication, the more complicated it gets. But it's not impossible. And even when the family structure shifts, the language plan can survive the, let's say, the scaffolding of it. And we need to adapt and reframe based on our current situation. It's what we've said before. We need to be consistent in our approach, but we need to be flexible. And a family going through a divorce is one of those huge changes that you need to be able to, well, you need to be able to, I know how stressful it might be and how there are a lot of things to think about, but sustaining the home languages and sustaining a form of normalcy is really important. And that's why you have to make an effort to adapt and reframe your family language plan. Because what is the most important here is that your child feels seen, that they continue to feel supported, they continue to feel safe. Building this feeling of safety, that they feel safe and secure, is paramount. Because relationships change, but your child needs to feel that there is continuity in what you are doing for them in the language plan.
Can you give any examples of how we can make sure the children still feel safe and rooted in the linguistic identity?
Keep the door open to their languages. For example, one thing, if you've decided to that your child will attend heritage language school on the weekend, and you end up going through a divorce, you need to continue doing this. Because if you decide, oh, I'm moving away and it's going to be very difficult for me. So when you make your decision about this, that you move away, you physically move, and then the two co-parents don't live in the same town anymore, think about how you can continue doing this. Because let's say this habit that you've built with the heritage language school is something that is going to anchor your child. You will provide continuity, and you have to make an effort to continue doing this because it is important for their linguistic, emotional, academic development, and overall personal development. And don't let the conflict close that door for your child, because language safety is important. And keep talking to your child about this. Keep reminding them that you see them, that things are changing, but you're doing your best, because both parents want the best for the child, and you're doing the best to continue what you've started.
So we've spoken there a lot about co-parenting. How about we talk about the other parents who actually are solo parenting? So these might be parents who are doing this all on their own. Do you have any words of encouragement or any suggestions? Because they are going to have a lot of buy-in in community and in help that way.
Absolutely. If you're a single parent and you don't think that it's possible to raise a child with multiple languages, I have to tell you you're wrong, because you can outsource a lot of those, let's say, responsibilities to and form language partnerships. So if you speak one language at home, then you have another language in the community. Perhaps you want to pass on a third language. There are many different ways to do this. So you can make sure you get buy-in from different partners, be it a neighbor, be it a nanny, or even an au pair, or a family member, or a friend, or some sort of activity. Make sure you find your circle. And again, form language partnerships where you can outsource the responsibility for this other language, and you can trust this other person and talk to them and tell them, hey, I would like to pass this language to my child, and can you help me? And can you make sure that when we see each other, or maybe we can make a certain schedule, and then you can help me in this? Because you can't do it all. You can never be a one-person show as a single parent. It's difficult, but don't get into this trap when you hear or read people telling you, oh, you're a single parent and you cannot raise a multilingual child. By all means, this is possible. Absolutely possible. Yes, it might require a little bit more planning. Yes, it might require a little bit more organization. And this comes with more time and more effort. Maybe you want to tap into a certain community, a certain language and cultural community, but it's all possible. It's all possible. Don't discard it before you've tried if you really want to do it.
So, Mimi, what's one last thing that you hope parents remember from today's episode?
Perhaps the most important thing is that if you're a two-person family, or if you're co-parenting, that you need to have the tough conversations, that you need to really dig deep and find the reasons behind certain decisions and understand where the other person is coming from, because kids are incredibly attuned to all those emotional currents, let's say. And if one parent values a language and the other one dismisses it, it can be really damaging to the child, because they will internalize the tension and they wouldn't know why. They wouldn't know what it means. And being aligned doesn't mean that you have to speak the same language or you have to have equal roles. It does mean that you respect each other's choices and you support each other. And one thing that I want to give to single parents is that you can absolutely do it. Yes, it requires more work, maybe a little bit more planning, but if you find your language partners and align your strategy accordingly, you can absolutely pass on more than one language if you wish to do so.
Okay, well, that's today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation with our multilingual partnering series with Mimi. We covered a little bit today, focusing on the family, from figuring out which languages truly matter to the family, navigating parental dynamics. So whether you're doing this as a team, solo, or co parenting after a split, what really stood out is that multilingual parenting isn't just about language. It's about creating emotional safety, identity, and connection for your child, and doing so with care and intention. If this is something today resonated with you, maybe a light bulb moment or a gentle nudge to rethink your language plan, we'd love to hear about it. Please like, subscribe, share this episode, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss next month's episode with Mimi. She'll be back with more insights, and trust us, you don't want to miss this. And until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, this isn't about being perfect, it's about being present.